today, very briefly, we look at Devi Bhagavad Mahapuran or Devi Bhagavad Puran. This is the scripture that is dedicated and that has the glories and the exploits of Divine Mother, but it also mentions there Bhagavan Sri Ram. So this helps to explain the significance of today. Today being Dashahara, or Vijay Dashmi as we say, Dashahara. Das means 10, Hara means to destroy. That is because, Ravan, or the Katha of Ravan. So we have completed 9 days of our worship to Divine Mother, and today we'll celebrate in the same way that the world celebrated when Bhagavan Sri Ram was victorious. Hara means he was victorious over defeating Ravan. And so, just before we make 2 or 3 quotations from Devi Bhagavad Mahapuran, we should, as human beings, we've all enjoyed and we feel better having fasted. When we fast, we feel better on so many different levels. Our brains move faster when we fast, when we eat a little bit less, smaller portions. We sacrifice something that we're eating for the Divine Mother. And so there are many, many physical benefits as well as spiritual benefits that can come from fasting. Physically, it is recommended to give the stomach. If you ask Dr. Brahm, Lakshman Hardwar, he will tell you he's recommending this to many people, how to eat less and yet stay strong and fix your internal problems, the diseases you may have. You can contact him, he'll tell you what that is. However, we fast and we fast to have a better mindset to worship Divine Mother. We worship divinity in the form of Mother, or divinity in a female form. What we also have to do as human beings, by extension of worshiping God as Divine Mother, as a feminine aspect of God, we must also recognize God's creation as feminine, meaning women folk. That it can easily be considered hypocritical if we worship God as Mother, we have so much reverence and love for God as Mother, but as men folk we show tremendous disrespect to the other gender. Then that's not a good start for us to worship God as Mother. So we do so as human beings, but we only do so when it's convenient for us. What do I mean by that? I mean that, and I'll give you an example based on evolutionary psychology. And this is an example given by a psychologist, Dr. David Boss. And he says that as human beings, we give respect and reverence and care to the women folk in a couple of situations in our lives. One is that this evolutionary theory states that women contribute more to their children than fathers do. And this is called parental investment. But that's something we all know. We may not have put it in those words, but the mother is the one who takes care of the child, more times than not. The father takes care of the child 5 minutes a day and then he's tired, he's got to watch TV. The mother's job is full-time. Because the women are full-time caregivers of not only the children, but the entire family. And they form a foundational basis of family. And this is based on this theory that I'm telling you about. Secondly, this theory, evolutionary theory, tells us that it also states that because of the benefit that can be had from women folks, from the opposite gender, from female, that families will protect their daughters more than their sons. Now this might sound strange to us, because naturally people protect their sons thinking the son will take on the family name, etc., etc. But when you look closer, you will see how much of a very, very careful, very subtle, very tender protection is given out to the daughter. Why is this? It's called, in psychology, it's called daughter guarding. Guarding the daughter. Why? Because it has been proven scientifically that only a daughter, and not the son necessarily, only a daughter can carry the genes of a family with certainty. And this is a 100% guarantee. Scientifically, it is only the daughter that will carry the genes of the family. So that necessitates a whole, I'm not a psychologist, it's just a little bit of a study I'm relating to you. You can read up more on it, but that's true, it's scientifically proven. Why? Because while we would have the name of the son will carry on the Sharma name or the Singh's name or the Prasad's name, etc., there's no guarantee. And so I cannot give further explanation on this, but study it and you'll see that there's a certainty that as long as the daughter has a child, then the genes of those grandparents will be carried forward. Maybe that's why grandparents spoil grandchildren so much. So this is why it became natural for parents to protect their daughters and want them to, because they want them to preserve their reputation. Parents try to preserve the reputations of the daughters because they want them to marry into good families. Why? Why good families? Because their genes are moving forward and they want their genes to be combined with the genes of another good family. They don't want to water down this thing. Anyways, so I mentioned that, you know, we protect and we have regard and respect for women folk when it comes to things that benefit us, like the daughter and the genes and the caregiver and the mother, and etc. On the other hand, if they are not family, they're not treated equally. They're not treated the same way. In the office, the women are not treated the same way. In politics, they're not treated the same way. In almost every social arena, every social aspect, they're not treated the same way. They may have the same qualification, doing the same job, but they make less money. They have less respect in that same place, in that same office where they have the same education or higher education. They get less respect and less salary. So when it comes to us as people who worship Divine Mother, if there's any society upon the surface of this earth that should lead the charge of proper treatment of women, who do you think it should be? It should be Hindu men. Why? Because this is the religion. This is no offense to every religion is good in its own way. They all lead to the same, you know, all roads lead to the same God. But how about where we live and what we do? That would determine whether we attain God or not. But if Hindu men, if we are good enough to worship God as female, we should recognize that same female's creation here on earth, the women folk, and show them the same respect. That should be our philosophy. And I can give you many, many examples, but this is not our kata for today. This is just something that came to my mind and I wanted to mention it. Because we worship the female form. It's not just a thing. It's not just, you know, we have God and God has a wife or a devotee or something which is female. In Sanatan Dharma, female holds an exalted position, greater than the position of men in our philosophy. It is one of the reasons why when we call God's name, what do we say? Radha Krishna. You don't say Krishna Radha. We say Uma Maheshwar, means Shiva and Parvati. We say Sita Ram, Sachi Purandara, Saraswati and Brahma, etc., etc. We never take the male form of God, his name first. We do all of that. We worship God as female, yet in Hindu countries around the world, where the Hindus are majority, most of these, if not all of them, they're patriarchal societies, where the men make the rules. He calls the shots. It is not disrespecting men in any way. They should have an equal. Now, the only way a marriage will be blissful, the only way a country will be blissful, is to follow the teachings of Sanatan Dharma. Not disrespecting. I'm just saying Sanatan Dharma has gone the extra mile to show how women should be treated. When we do the Sat Vachan, there are 5 rules for the Dulhin, the bride. And the guy just asked for one. Why? Because they have such a greater role to play in many homes. The wife is the finance minister, she is the mother, the husband might be another one of the children, and so on. We know many homes like that. We live like that. But yet when we go out and we work and the woman is in the office, we look down on her. Why? Where's the evidence? Who has told us that? Which scripture? When has God treated the female form with disrespect? It doesn't happen. If we look at Sanatan philosophy, and any couple who lives by Sanatan philosophy, that will be the happiest marriage ever. If a country takes this philosophy as to how to treat women, then there will never be this inequality. You know, there's this word they have in the Western world, equality. This word only breaks everything. It only destroys everything, because this is not the word to use. There's no equality. If you do equality, in a marriage, equality is selfishness. And I can explain that, but not in this forum. As soon as you talk about equality, you're looking for trouble. No, but in a husband, if he knows his role, then he'll know the role of a Hindu wife. He'll know the role of a woman. If a president of a country knows the role of a male and knows the role of a female based on Sanatan Dharma, that country will be blissful. If women are to rule the world, we'll have a much more peaceful world. You believe me? Try it out. I don't know who will try it out, but it's true. But our approach is that they shouldn't be ruling the world. If they do, we wouldn't have so many wars. Now this can go on and on, so let's stop there. But my point is that as Hindus, we should lead the charge. Let us lead the charge, because we know better. We know from our philosophy, we worship Divine Mother for 9 days. Why should we step out of the puja room or the mandir and go and ill-treat women and look at them as inferior beings? What have we done? So if anybody is to change this, it is the Hindu society. And if we wait on the entire Hindu society to do it, it will never happen. Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. So we should all take it personally, start from there, how women should be treated, because we worship women. We know that we treat them well because we want to, them to take our genes over to our grandchildren, etc. So what is our point treating them as inferiors in other aspects of life. Nothing. So let's study Hinduism. Let's try to know what our philosophy says, and if we do, then we'll be able to lead the way. And you know, people say change the world. We'll be able to lead the way, and we'll be able to change the world. So, I don't know what time it is. So let's look briefly at our katha for today. This katha is taken from the third canto, meaning the third book, the 30th chapter, and we start with verse 38. We'll quote 2 verses or so of Devi Bhagavad Puran. Most of us know there's a Puran for every form of God. Sri Krishna, there's Bhagavad Mahapuran, we read from Bhagavad on Friday night. Bhagavan Shankar, there's Shiv Puran, like that. So for Durga, there's Devi Bhagavad Mahapuran. So let's see what Devi Bhagavad says. Durgati Nashini, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai. Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai. विधि में बहु में विप्रेषु व्रतस्यास्य समासतः करोम्योमैव श्रद्धावाञ्छि देव्याः पूजनम् तथा दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय, काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय, काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय। आदि शक्ति दुर्गा माता की जय। So Bhagavan Sri Ram, this is Devi Bhagavad Mahapuran. During the time when he was exiled, he was making his way. Mata Sita was abducted, and Bhagavan Sri Ram is now making his way to the southern side of India. And he's about to engage in a battle with Ravan. Ravan was extremely powerful. So much so that he was ruling the heavens. The heavens meaning not God's abode, the abode of the Devatas, the celestial beings. Ravan had all the Devatas under his control. Philosophy says that he had the Devatas, you know, Surya, Chandra, Mangal, all working, all serving in his palace. He was so powerful that he dictated what the temperature can be. Whatever temperature, you know, like how we set our thermostat, Ravan could have set his thermostat for the entire city. Because he controlled the Devatas also, so powerful he was. Because he got his blessings from Bhagavan Shankar, he misused it, and he defeated the Devatas. Anyways, so Bhagavan is walking towards the south of India, towards the shore where he crossed the ocean, the river to Lanka. And because he's about to go into a war with Ravan, remember, Sri Ram is Bhagavan, but he came upon earth to live at Maryada as man. So he was exercising only 12 elements of divinity. This is why he was not called Purna Avatar. Sri Krishna was called Purna Avatar because he exercised all 16 elements of divinity. So Bhagavan Sri Ram lived as man, so he held back 4 elements, so he doesn't do things that are, you know, like God. He did things like man. So Naraji realized that Bhagavan Sri Ram has to go into battle with Ravan, and he approached Sri Ram. This verse is telling us that Naraji came to Bhagavan Sri Ram as he was making his way to the southern side, and he said, "Oh Ram, that you're going into battle with Ravan, that there is something you need to do before you go into battle." And Bhagavan Sri Ram says, "Please, describe to me what is it that you think." Remember, Naraji is not just we know him as a Swami or whatever we call. Naraji is an incarnation of God, right? Not in the 10. We know that the 10 main incarnations, Ram, Krishna, Matsya, etc., etc. But in the 24 manifestations of God, enunciated in Bhagavad Mahapuran, one of these 24 is Narad. So Narad knows, and so he came to Sri Ram and said, "Look, you have to perform a fast, and I will explain it to you. The condition for doing this fast is that Vidhi me bahu vipreshu, that you have to perform this fast with absolute sincerity and devotion. Shraddha vanchit, that you have to have 100% faith in this fast that you will be doing. If you do so and you worship and you perform the fast like that, then you'd be victorious in all that you have to do ahead of you." So Bhagavan Sri Ram says that, "Look, I'm willing to do the fast. What kind of fast are you talking about?" Naraji says, "Nato Ram, pītham kritva samesthane sanstapya jagadambikam upavasanaiva tam kuru rama vidatana." Naraji is explaining to Bhagavan Sri Ram here that, look, you need jagadambikam. You need to worship the Divine Mother for a period of 9 days. You need to do proper fast for 9 days and worship the Divine Mother. Prepare a proper place, what we call a bedi, right? Prepare a place where you perform your worship in the proper manner. Worship the Divine Mother for 9 days, and then things will happen your way. Not only that, but Naraji also said to Bhagavan Sri Ram, "Acharyoham bhavishyami karmanyastin mahipate devakarya vidanartham upasaham praromyaham." So he said to Bhagavan Sri Ram that you have to perform this fast for 9 days, but you also need a priest. You know, like how we have a pandit coming to do the puja, because everything is specific. So Narad said that Acharyoham, that I will be the pandit. Naraji will perform the role of a pandit in this fast. So Bhagavan Sri Ram would be able to perform this fast the way it's supposed to be done, this worship for these 9 days the way it's supposed. So Naraji, now this is Bhagavan performing, the puja as the pandit, but he told Bhagavan Sri Ram, you remember in the last verse, he says, Upavasanaivaha, upavas. We know this word upavas as fasting, right? But that is really a watered down meaning of the word upavas. When Narad explains what upavas is to Bhagavan Sri Ram, of course Bhagavan Sri Ram understands, and we should understand as well. When we fast, another name for it is upavas, but upavas explains what the fasting is, or what the fasting should do for us. Because vas comes from the Sanskrit root verb vas, which means to live. Upa means near. So when we're doing a fast, what is the purpose of the fast? The purpose of the fast, let's take for example, you're eating less or you're not eating food at all. the reason for not eating all the things you're accustomed to eating every day, whether you give up salt, whether you give, whatever you give up, is because when we eat 3 meals a day, let's say you eat at 12 o'clock, lunch. What happens at 11 or 11:30? You start thinking about lunch. You eat at 5, dinner, you start 4 o'clock. So the mind is preoccupied with what has been cooked today. What would I have for dinner? All you're thinking about is food. When you're doing a fast, then a fast is recommended because we're trying to empty the mind of all the everyday habits and thoughts that we have so the mind can be focused on God. That is the reason for fasting. Fasting is a sacrifice, so not only food, but all the other things we do. Fasting is recommended at a physical, meaning a medical level, and a spiritual level, because it helps the mind, it helps the digestive system. You know, some people, I told you about, Dr. Hardwar earlier, and so if he put you on a 1 meal a day thing, then what happens? For the first 2-3 days, it will be more difficult. After that, I heard from people that it's so much better because now I don't have to worry about eating. I have more time to work. I have more time to do more things. I don't have to eat breakfast. I don't have to eat lunch. It sounds funny, but it's not. It's true. You can sit at your desk, or you can do so many more things because you're saving 2 hours. You're not thinking about eating. You're eating until this afternoon. So this is the purpose of fast, to clear the mind of all the clutter that is there for the entire year. So upavas here means the reason why we will get closer to God. Up meaning close, vas means to dwell closer to God, is only if the mind is purged of all the everyday, the thousands and thousands. There are so many different studies. Some studies say we have 60,000 thoughts a day. Some studies say up to 200,000. We don't know for sure, but we have so many thoughts, and upavas means to calm the mind down. Only when we calm the mind down, then we will be able to focus it on Bhagavan. This is real fasting. This is the purpose for fasting. There's an unrelated point when Meghnath, Ravan's son, was to be killed. He could have only been killed by someone who didn't have food for 12 years. Can you believe that? That powerful he was. The only person that qualified for that, not intentionally according to the scriptures, was Lakshman. Because his duty was to take care of his brother. He didn't care anything about food. Scientifically, you can't tell the science community that someone didn't eat for 12 years. But that is as long as they tested the body. There are enough saints in India. One just recently, Yogananda met, if you read his, the biography of a saint, there's a saint in there who didn't eat for 50 years, 50. So when we hear Lakshman didn't eat for 12 years, we go like, how did he live? Of course it's possible. We are not at that level, so we can't do it. These individuals are at a yogic level. When you get to a yogic level, all things are possible. But let's don't try that. We'll harm ourselves because we're not yogis. So when we give up all the things we like on a daily basis, then we'll do upavas. So when we say upavas is equal to the fast we're doing because we've given up a little salt or we've given up 1 meal, that is good. Excellent start. But upavas is what and where we want to get. So here, coming back to the katha, Narad said that he said to Bhagavan Sri Ram that, look, I will be the Pandit and you will be conducting this fast. Let's see what happened. Those verses were, remember we started at 38, so those were 39 and 40. We'll now look at the 44th verse, 3rd canto, Devi Bhagavat Mahapuran. Sunu meri Devi पर्वतवासिनी तेरा पालनहारा मैया मेरी तेरा पालनहारा सुन मेरी देवी पर्वतवासिनी तेरा पालनहारा मैया मेरी तेरा पालनहारा भ्रातरौ चक्रतु प्रेमणा व्रतं नारदसन्मतम् अष्टम्यां मध्यरात्रे तु देवी भगवती सा सुनो मेरी देवी पर्वतवासिनी तेरा पालनहारा मैया मेरी तेरा पालनहारा मैया मेरी तेरा पालनहारा. Bhagavan Sri Ram performed the fast when it was Ashtamyam Madhyaratre on the 8th day. The 8th day is said to be the most auspicious day. It's called Ashtami Tithi. So Ashtami here means the 8th days because on that day that Mahakali emanated from the forehead of Durga and destroyed, helped to destroy Mahishasur. Kali, the terrible form of Jagadamba. When things seem not to be going away, difficult things from the lives of our devotees, the terrible form of Durga comes and gets rid of anything, makes the impossible into possible. So here, on the 8th night of the fast of Bhagavan Sri Ram, when Sri Ram completed 8 days, then Bhagavati Ma was very pleased with Bhagavan Sri Ram, and she appeared. She appeared in front of him, appeared before him, of course mounted on, she's called Sheravali, mounted on a lion, and addressed Bhagavan Sri Ram. She said to him that, "Hey Ram," what the verse says is Rama Rama Baho Tushtas Vrate Nate. Rama Ram Mahabaho. Mahabaho, you remember Kandhaya used this word also in Bhagavad Gita. That, "Hey Ram, you have done this fast the way it is recommended by Naraji. Today I'm very pleased with you for having completed this fast. Now I want you to ask from me of anything that you desire." And so the katha goes on from here, and then this is the 46th verse. In the next 10 verses or so, Bhagavan Sri Ram had a conversation with Divine Mother, and in the end, in the 57th verse of this same chapter, then Bhagavati told Bhagavan Sri Ram that something will happen. What is it that will happen? That he'll be able to be successful in what he's doing, meaning that he'll be able to be successful in the destruction of Ravan, even though Ravan was so powerful. So Bhagavan Sri Ram completed his fast, and he engaged himself in battle with Ravan. And so the battle is a long katha, but it was time now when Bhagavan Sri Ram was facing Ravan himself. And so when Bhagavan Sri Ram shot an arrow at Ravan and cut his heads out, cut his arms out, they will fall on the ground and then they regrow again. They rejoin. Ravan cannot die. It was not possible. In the meantime, Maya Sita is sitting in the Ashok Vatika, and she's trying to inquire, how is it that Ravan will be destroyed? Trijita, a demon, had said to Mata Sita how Ravan can be destroyed. But here Bhagavan Shankar is saying to Bhavani, to Parvati Maya, that even though Sita knew, Bhagavan Sri Ram is on the battlefield battling with Ravan, and when he keeps shooting arrows at Ravan and could not have killed him, because there was a secret of destroying Ravan. So Bhagavan Shankar tells Mata Parvati that Sri Ram, he took a glance at Vibhishan. Vibhishan understood what the message is. Vibhishan gave Bhagavan Sri Ram some information. We'll quote this Chaupai from Ramcharitamanas before we close our session today. कैची सरासन गरजे उमरत घोर रव भारी गरजे उभरत घोर रव भारी कहा रामो रनहतो पचारी कहा रामो रनहतो पचारी श्री राम जय जय रामा 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 श्री राम जय जय राम. This doha also contains information of what Vibhishan said to Bhagavan Sri Ram. कैची सरासन श्रवण लगी कैची सरासन श्रवण लगी छादे सर 31 हो रामा छादे सर 31 रघुनायक सायक चले रघुनायक सायक चले मानव काल्पनिक सियावर रामचंद्र जी की जय शरणम. When Sri Ram looked at Vibhishan, it was for a reason. Shankar Bhagavan is telling Parvati, the reason why he looked is to provide Vibhishan an opportunity. An opportunity to do what? To exhibit his loyalty to divinity. Now Vibhishan had a choice. You can express your loyalty to divinity, or you can express it to DNA. You know DNA? Meaning, you can choose between Bhagavan or relatives. You can choose between dharma and adharma, like the Kauravas and the Pandavas. You can choose between right and wrong. You can choose between your infinite future or suffering in this life. This is the opportunity that Bhagavan Sri Ram provided Vibhishan. Speak, Vibhishan. He's not asking him, he's just looking at him. Why? Because Vibhishan is the brother of Ravan. He's from a demon family, but he was a devotee. This was the ultimate test. Are you a devotee? Are you going to look out for Bhagavan and Bhagavan's works, or would you stick to family who are doing the wrong things? And this is something we struggle with every day in our lives. To make these decisions in life. We're faced with them so often. It causes us to start thinking with our emotions. Because someone is close to us, a dear friend, a relative. And so we make decisions based on emotions and not the intellect, not the divinity within us, but mere emotions. Even though we know more times than not, we know that this decision, following this person, enabling this person, supporting this person, doing the wrong thing is not only bad for him, but it's bad for me. It is detrimental to my future because we are an infinite being. No one dies. We just give up this call, we continue. We continue with man, buddhi and ahamkar. This mind that we nurture, whatever we put in it, that is what will multiply and will get greater the next time around. So if we support our dharma because we relate it to a person based on the body, then that will go with us, not the relative. How many of us don't know the song? Everybody does. Oh, we came alone, we go alone. But we don't operate like that. We just say the words. So we have to make a decision based on intellect or divinity as against DNA. And so this is the opportunity that Bhagavan Sri Ram provided to Vibhishan. And of course, we know the Katha. Vibhishan sees this moment. He knew what is good for him. He experienced Bhagavan Sri Ram. He experienced his brother who literally kicked him out of the palace. His mind was not hung up there anymore, but he was enjoying the nectar of being in company with Sri Ram. And he said to Bhagavan Sri Ram that, my Lord, Ravan can only be killed if you keep chopping his hands and his heads out, he'll never die. That there is nectar that resides in his navel. And as long as that is punctured and the nectar escapes, that is the only way Ravan can be destroyed. Bhagavan Sri Ram looked at Vibhishan and he smiled. Why? Because he knew that, but he provided an opportunity to Vibhishan. Trijita, like I said, had already said this to Sita Maya. So there's a little lesson here as we close our katha for today, that we don't have to follow what everyone else does. We don't have to follow, we don't have to come under peer pressure, we don't have to live by the opinion of others. But we should be anchored within the boundaries of our own value system. Vibhishan's value system was to do that which is right. He believed in righteousness. That is why he lived in Lanka, but he was a devotee, because he went with what his core values were. When you do so, you'll be successful. There's a beautiful quote that says, a person who has the courage of his convictions is always a successful person. And so Vibhishan followed his convictions. He had the courage to execute them. And what happened? He became the king. He became the king of Lanka. So the Chaupai tells us that Bhagavan Sri Ram, the Chaupai tells us 81. Bhagavan Sri Ram loaded 31 arrows on his bow, and he released them all at the same time. And they flew like serpents, the serpents of death. Of course, there were serpents of death for Ravan. The 31 arrows went and they cut his 10 heads out, his 20 arms out, and the 31st arrow went straight into his navel, got rid of the nectar, and Ravan suffered. Again, while dying, his heads are gone, his arms are gone, but Ravan was so powerful that he could have spoken. And he says, Kaha Ramo Rana Hata Upachari, that where is this Ram? You know how many times did we not say, if you squeeze a lemon, what comes out? Only lemon juice, right? Nothing else would come out. If a male squeezes it, if a female squeezes it, you squeeze it early in the morning, late at night, if you hold it upside down, sideways, whatever you do. If you squeeze a lemon, only lemon comes out. What is in Ravan, that is what was coming out. The hate. Even though he doesn't have a mouth and can't speak anymore, the hate is flowing and emanating from all his pores, and so powerful that it's making a sound. That where is this Ram? I want to engage him in battle and destroy him. Because that is how he lived. You live by the sword, you die by it. Ravan lived with his hate for not just man, for God. And even though he didn't have mouth, he was saying, where is Ram? This happens when we nourish bad thoughts. They become ingrained in our very being. There's a beautiful quote, it goes, I will paraphrase, it goes something like this, that watch your thoughts, it becomes words. And your words become actions. Your actions become habits. Your habits become your character. Your character becomes your destiny. This was Ravan's destiny. From the thought of hating Sri Ram or God, it became his destiny, where he was killed by the arrow of Bhagavan Sri Ram. We can also kill our peace of mind. We can also kill the divinity that lives within us, that we came with. If we nurture, remember we said a few weeks ago, energy cannot differentiate between good and bad thoughts. In the same way that water cannot differentiate between plants and weed, it will nurture both. In the same way, wherever you put energy, it will grow and it will become stronger and ever stronger. If you put your mind and your thoughts on hate, on that which is adharmic, it will grow and the mind will continue to evolve and evolve and evolve. And when we come again next time in a human body, we wouldn't understand what's happening in our lives. No fault of ours. Hey Bhagavan, what bad have I done? Purva janma kritam karma tadadaivam miti kathyate. The actions we perform in this life form destiny in the next life. So let us be careful, Bhaiya. This is not a warning. This is information for us as Hindus. Let us take a lesson from Ravan. Don't nurture these thoughts, because if we do, they will inevitably harm us. Bhagavan Sri Ram destroyed Ravan on this 10th day of Nauratri on Vijayadashmi. That is what is called, why it's called Dashahara, destroying the 10 heads of Ravan. That's why today, if you still in India, they will make effigies of Ravan and Kumbhkarn and Meghnad and so on. They will stack it up with explosives, and then they light it up today. That's the way they celebrate the Dashahara. They celebrate the destruction of Ravan. So I hope and pray that this little katha would serve to help to celebrate Dashahara, Vijayadashmi, the victory of our 9 days of fasting. I hope and pray that your prayers and your sadhana and your fasting, everything that you have done, that you will not give it up today, but you will try to continue at some level, try to get closer and closer to God. Remember upavas. Whatever you have to do upavas. Upavas doesn't mean stay away from food. Upavas meaning control the mind in whatever way you see necessary. Control the mind and let it reside closer to Bhagavan.